Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Matt Preston. I'm the head of the technical and partner success team for Virgin Media O2 Wholesale Fixed Business. And I'm delighted to be your host today for this very exciting Ready for Impact panel session, exploring the emerging technologies that you'll see in the reports on your tables. Personally, it's fair to say my imposter syndrome is probably through the roof now at being on the stage with such market-leading and knowledgeable experts. I'm delighted to welcome to the stage Jürgen Hathier, International Chief Technology Officer for Ciena, Simon Clement, Director of Technology Strategy for Liberty Global, Jaylin Wu, Technology and Growth Evangelist for Virgin Media O2, and Bjorn Hitter-Johan, the Technologies and AI Director for Nord4. So welcome, guys, and thank you for taking the time out today to educate us all, as I'm sure you will. As the video's just alluded to, our Ready for Impact report is about unlocking the potential of the future. It's looking beyond the here and now to ensure we all have the foresight to be successful in the face of the massive change that these technologies will inevitably bring. We've seen the increased adoption of cloud-based services and other technologies in recent years, and the huge growth that this has generated in our networks. But this report looks beyond that to the next big things that are likely to continue that trend. The report you'll see on the table is based on a 2023 IET survey of senior business leaders and the 5 emerging technology areas that they least understood, as it said on the screen there, namely artificial intelligence, the metaverse, extended reality, quantum computing, and distributed ledger technology. And more importantly, how we as network operators need to adapt to be able to support them. I'm sure we're all making really tough investment decisions all the time in the technology area, but we know the future doesn't happen without our industry. The infrastructure and services that we provide in this room make the connected future possible, and we need to be ready for the impact that these technologies are likely to bring. The most important, the most imminent and interesting of these 5 trends, we think, in terms of both adoption and opportunity, is artificial intelligence. So today, with the limited time we've got available, we've got 30 minutes for the presentations and the interaction and 10 minutes for Q&A at the end of it. We're going to spend our time focusing the discussion on the impact of artificial intelligence. We'll have time for questions at the end, as I've just mentioned, but let's kick off. And if I might start with you, Simon, first. Could you give us your view of the societal impact of AI and why it's such an important topic?
So I was lucky enough to be one of the authors of the report. So I think with AI specifically, like the guys, the data scientists we keep in the basement tell me that this is not a new technology. You know, it's been around. 1950s was the Turing test. You know, if anybody's stuck for something to do at the weekend, if you watch the AlphaGo documentary on YouTube, 2016, where we see, you know, Google AI beating, you know, the Go champion. That's actually a really interesting documentary. And then, you know, we see, I would say, you know, the emergence of ChatGPT, November 2022, which is really where we saw the explosion. I think that's where we see, if you like, the big impact of AI across society. You know, it's been around for a while. It's fed by the explosion of data and the explosion of compute, and the two things coming together. So there's a couple of stats, like 90% of all data on the internet was created in the last 2 years, and it doubles every 2 years. And our compute and processing is 4 million times what it was in the 70s. So those two things coming together, if you like, have created this explosion of AI and LLMs. LLMs are really large language models, are a subset of lots of different types of AI. And in reality, if we look at the overall impact, I think you know, in terms of society, it's going to be longer term. It's going to be enormous. I would say that there's a famous saying in tech, Amara's law, which is we tend to underestimate or overestimate the impact of technology in the short term and underestimate in the long term, the other way around. So I think, like you can see, it's already been 15, 16 months since we saw ChatGPT. It's still taking time to adopt. But in the next, 5 years, we will see massive, massive changes to the way we operate networks, the way we see data consumption, the way we use everyday technology. The generation of traffic could be exponential. We use for example, ChatGPT used 570 gigabytes of data for one training run. That's 300 billion words in text. So that's just one training run of ChatGPT at a cost of $3 billion, though $3 million. So I think what we're seeing is massive, massive uptick, both in training of models, and then every time we use something like ChatGPT or an LLM, there's that inference cost. So we effectively create a transaction that we use. So I think that's where we sort of see that massive uptick in terms of data consumption. And then I would say that's training data. The other side of it, just anecdotally, the content generation side, where we see LLMs and other AI generating content, the changes are massive in society. I've got a friend who runs a health and safety company. He used to write one blog a week. He now uses ChatGPT. He writes 3 blogs a week. His productivity is 300%. Right? It's a massive change for him.
Yeah, there's a remarkable stat in the book, actually, in the report about the adoption of ChatGPT in particular. Just 100 million users within inside 8 weeks, or something phenomenal.
Yeah.
And if you wouldn't mind extrapolating a little bit on the types of AI, as you said, there's the training aspect of it, and then the content generation. Where do you see the kind of biggest growth?
So it's across the board. So we see machine learning, deep learning. We've got computer vision is another side of AI that we're currently seeing massive potential for. I know there's a lot of networking companies in the audience. There are trials in progress, for example, where where engineers go out and validate their jobs. Are the piano labels correct for PIA? Are the bend radiuses correct on splice trays, etc.? We can do that in the field in real time using computer vision, validate the job, quality analysis is done, send it back. So there's all sorts of different types of scenarios. We're looking at, in reality, it's the data drivers are the training, it is the things like localization, the new applications we see, the inference, and like I said, then it's content generation, but it's across the board, generally speaking.
Jürgen, if I could come to you and perhaps give us a broader view of the market perspective and the opportunities you're seeing from Ciena.
Sure. So first of all, I think we haven't seen any impact on the networks today. Even 100 million ChatGPT users have still kept the data growth in Europe below 25% last year. And that's because we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. Simon mentioned advanced applications with imagery, but motion images and extended telemetry, not an LG washing machine, but maybe a smart car surveying the streets, is going to change that in the future. And what we see right now is, massive AI, which is driven primarily out of the US. Most of the startups are there, a couple of them in Israel, but you really have a lot of innovation for AI ops, as I want to call it, right? And the amount of data the amount of money that's invested in data centers by hyperscalers, but also by some very courageous telcos, is massive. And until that capacity hits the field, it's going to take a while. And until then, I would say our networks have a little break. But that little break could turn into a massive disaster once, we see the new types of data that hit the network. And I'm not talking about just more data, more downloads or uploads of data, but you will see deterministic network requirements when, as Simon said, inference happens, when an image is being processed and you want some immediate results. Is this good? Is this bad? You will run into, very different ways of what networks need to deliver. I believe it's a great opportunity, though. We don't quite know what's coming, but I want to give you one analogy. Remember how, streaming video was lingering out there until Netflix and YouTube picked it up and they created a whole lot more demand on our networks? Well, that was excellent for the people that were selling DCI. But for the service provider, did you get an extra dollar out of that? I don't think so. And if we fast forward, what if those global cloud companies give those developers all the APIs to just, build out another massive application that rides over the top? Something we should think about. How can we intercept that today? And if you look at the press, a couple of recipes are developing out there, right? You see the Vodafones of the world partnering with Microsoft. You see, the Swisscoms of the world and the Singtels partnering with NVIDIA. Some build infrastructure, some build partnerships to resell AI capabilities, like we have all resold, right? Office 365, all these good things. We need to embrace, AI also from a new commercial and business model perspective. It's not just a technical problem that we need to solve, because otherwise we end up, like Lutz said, 5G, where's the money? We invested billions.
Some of the previous speakers in the network build panel session, which I know not everybody attended, were really insightful in the way they're deploying the network AI in their thinking ahead. Do you see from a supplier perspective, do you see those AI engines being built into network management platforms and things like that at this stage, or is it too embryonic?
Not at all. We have been doing that for years. Simon said it rightly. Google has had AI around since the 90s, and you have all been using that. If you use translate.google.com, that's where we have been using capacity optimization, our network management platforms. Our customers have been using it, and by the way, the Koreans are really very, advanced in that. They have been using AI for years. So this is not new. I'm sorry. And AI ops is something we will need to adopt, but we can only change the outcome for the company if we, of course, embrace that, but make sure that we build on the monetization. How can we grow the top line?
Okay. Jailin, if I come to you for a different kind of perspective on AI, could you kind of tell us about AI from an organizational perspective? How, for example, VMO2 are looking to use AI internally?
Yeah, so sure. One of the examples currently is we're looking into building up a knowledge management system for specifically user research and user insights to drive customer centricity in our company. But instead of straight going to looking at tooling or looking at, okay, what are the different AI knowledge management systems that are available out there, we first went to our people. And that meant our UX researchers. So really interviewing every single one of them to understand, okay, what does meaningful work mean to you and what does that look like for you? And what are the things that potentially that we can look at to automate with AI? And we found out there's actually a huge amount of, let's say, annoying work that they were more than happy to have AI assist with. And they also saw the potential of like, okay, if we're able to actually minimize the amount of work that we need to do on admin tasks, et cetera, or watching customer interview videos that are like 10, 20 hour long just to find that one footage that is actually going to get an impact on the inside of the customer, this is going to be hugely effective and valuable for them as UX researchers. On the other hand, we also had product owners who of course come from a very different perspective when it comes to, okay, like what is the value that I can get from AI? Is how do I get better insights? Because there's tons of research. I mean, one of the biggest pain points when it came to us asking, like, what is it? Why are you not using research to the best of its capabilities? Is one, they don't know what research has already been available, what information is already there. How do you actually pair up the different databases or different data insights as well on customer behavior, et cetera, and with qualitative data and quantitative data put together. So for them, it was about access, better access, more relevant access, and faster access. And knowing, okay, do we need to employ new research, or is the available research that is already there enough for us to make the right decisions going forward about our product or about our customer journey or about our customer relationships? So that was a quite interesting exercise for us to do, because it also allowed us to see that actually there's a huge spectrum of opinions and sentiments around AI, right? Some people were like, oh my God, this is going to completely take over my job. Like, what about me? Like, if I'm going to jump on this ship right now, does that mean that eventually my job is not going to be mine anymore. Or on the other hand, there were also people who are quite enthusiastic about it. It's like, okay, I really want to get in there because this is a really good opportunity for me to learn how to work with AI and what are the possibilities, how can I maximize my skills with AI. So one of the things that I personally believe that is going to be quite true, at least because we never know how this technology is going to evolve over time. So when it's going to hit that critical mark of like, okay, this is going to be able to do a lot more than we ever thought it can. But maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, I don't think AI is going to be replacing jobs, but it is people who know how to use AI and know how to incorporate AI into their work are going to be replacing people who don't. That's just personally my opinion.
There is, you touched on a really interesting point there about the psychological safety of introducing AI technology into the organisation and bringing people along on that journey. It's an interesting dynamic. Bjorn, if I come to you and ask you to give us an end user perspective and perhaps some examples of end user applications and the benefits these are driving in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, as a transformation director, we work with lots of clients in the Microsoft ecosystem, and what we're seeing right now is a flurry of new capabilities and AI services, and it's anything from what you hear as cognitive services and then Copilot, and Microsoft don't help themselves, and probably the other hyperscalers neither. The wording and the namings that are used are not really driving knowledge and insight to the client. So they think, oh, what is a cognitive service? 5 different products are all called Copilot. So what do we have there? That's where we can come in and help organizations understand the capabilities that are out there. So to make this real, and we had great examples already from Jalin and Simon and Jürgen, but easy examples is if you have a web chat, you can use one of the cognitive services, which is called sentiment analysis, to understand, okay, is an end customer upset, or are they really supportive? And you can use this insight to, I don't know, drive the customer journey or engage another level of support in an earlier stage. So all of this, sub-level information and insight we can use, and AI is the medium to help us do so. In the production world, we see anomaly detection, and I think we heard that in one of the sessions earlier. So anomaly detection, and even here for the fiber splicing, that's another example where we say if it's not spliced correctly, then that can drive and improve quality if we understand what does right and good look like. But we need to embrace the technologies, and that's where we come in to work with our end customers, but also work with you as partners to help you appreciate, okay, how can we take AI to market? And we have worked with VMO2 and other telcos to really craft a go-to-market strategy. What would an AI starter package look like to say, okay, if you are totally greenfield, yes, you are probably in Azure or AWS, but what are the things you need to have to put together to say, I can use this as a proof of value, proof of concept, or roll it out in a large scale environment. And with that comes not only the technology, but we also need to be mindful of, there's a lot of misinformation happening of, oh, AI is really scary. And yes, we hear the thing about, are people losing jobs? But also, if we deploy AI and things like ChatGPT correctly, data is safe and data is not leaking out, but we need to drive that in an effective way, and we can do that with you together. And even for you as VMO2 internally, you can use the capabilities to really, for you to become more efficient and effective in your day-to-day work. We heard how somebody is writing blogs now, 3 times more blogs. The same can be done in your day-to-day work. If you think about how many emails you get every day, 100, 150, some people get more, some people get less. And then you have the scenario of email chains where people email forwards and backwards, and you have a whole chain of emails, and then the email chain branches out because somebody 3 mails down replied to a previous, so you're branching out. And then you think, how can I grasp all the information, everything that was said? Well, you use Microsoft Copilot and say, can you summarize the whole email chain for me? And it will do it. And it's just, it saves you time. Why wouldn't you use it? And there are lots of other examples helping you write, I don't know, paragraphs or entire Word documents for your line of work that you need to do. And it's all at our fingertips. We just need to use it. For me, the analogy is where we stand right now. At a similar point we were when I wasn't born then, when we went from steam to electricity, and the first manufacturing organization said, yeah, no, I don't want to I carry on with steam, I won't go to electricity because it's all scary, it's new, it's not going to take off. And we are right at the same point. People need to embrace the technology. What we have learned through Industrial Revolution is those things will not disappear. It will snowball. And I like the analogy with the iceberg. We are right there, and there's so much more we can do. So let's all embrace it and really.
Yeah, I guess as you guys called out earlier, it's been around for some time. It's kind of building that critical mass now. But how much of it do you feel is hype, and how much are we actually at that tipping point now, do you feel?
Can I just jump in here, Björn? You said it so politely. All of this is at our fingertips. And again, as an industry, we are bloody late. We are absolutely late because who of you owns a Tesla, right? Do you think that you have spoken to a single real person when you called them for a service appointment? Absolutely not. No. And here we are, and here we want to help and enable our customers to go and adopt those services, right? We want to be the ones who own the relationship. But if we are slow and sluggish adopting that, and if we are not embracing this in full, the hyperscalers will again use their global reach and go pick off your enterprise customers who have trusted you with their business problems and connectivity problems. Yeah. So I believe we need to think bigger here, in a bigger context of how can we, be part of that ecosystem that delivers the outcome for our customer. And I think you are in a very key location for that, or key, position for that. Yeah. That's where we need to change our mindset away from, okay, let's just do a bit of connectivity here, and then, some bigger AI models are coming, so we put more connectivity out there. Let's think ahead. How can a partnership look like with a hyperscaler, with our customer, between you and Virgin Media O2, that makes a difference in the product and roadmap and the strategy, so that you can differentiate also to the others that are out there trying to do the same?
Absolutely, and we can take AI and the machine learning models. We can profile customers, and the likes of Facebook and Twitter, they already do that because that's how they drive the advertising through the products and whatever else they do. We can help you shape customer behavior. You can influence customer behavior, but what we need to do first is profile the customers, and we have the data. We can build machine learning models to understand what do customers do, and then we can influence them because you understand what the customer typically would do next, and then you can say, oh, but I don't want them to do that because I want to reshape my fiber network in a certain way. So you can drive that decision making by understanding the data and behavior.
Can I just say, you're right, you're both right, but the difference between some of those markets and some of our markets is scale, right? If you look at some of the, 4 million customers here, 1 million there, 500 there, Tesla, millions of customers, Meta, hundreds of millions of customers. So at scale, they can hit those things. And what I think what telcos and operators need is almost those boilerplate service companies that come in and go, okay, it's pretty much the same for everyone. There's a bit of fine tuning based upon certain fine tuning of models, sort of prompt engineering. But here's a model that fits the telco globally. Off we go. It's missing that scale. It's great to use those big examples, but they've got massive scale, right?
They got scale, but those toolkits are now very accessible. And I think if you look at all of you, your strength is the customer relationship, intimately knowing what their needs are. And by partnering up with somebody, like you, Björn, I think those models can easily be developed at small scale and replicate it. And I think, that's where the industry has evolved. I know we have spent millions, putting AI models into work in different products. Nowadays, it's easier. And I've attended a Google webinar the other day, and Amazon and Microsoft offer the same, where they just tell you, hey, you can download this kit. Here is how you tie it into certain IVRs, into your databases, and you can start modeling. You don't want to do that. You want to run your business. Hence, you need a partner, a service partner who develops a template to get this done. But if you, as the customer interface, can own that relationship, I think that will be very, very valuable.
Just touching on the point about scale and bringing it back to the kind of more relevance to the audience in terms of network build and network architectures. Again, we touched on this a little bit in the previous session, but what would you guys say are the key considerations for network architectures? Not as a result of just AI, but all the other emerging techs we've called out in the report. There's very common themes in there around low latency, higher capacity. What do you think are the key considerations?
Can I just jump? My big thing there would be the shift to symmetrical networks. Right? We've spent 20 years doing asymmetrical networks. I think there's an enormous shift to symmetrical networks, and one of the classic examples I would use is when we go into blockchain and DLT. I personally have a service in my car, right, which is a connected dash cam, and my dash cam captures every second of my drive, sends it up to the cloud, and rewards me with and monetizes it. And I use between 30 and 50 gigabytes a month sending images to the cloud, and I am just one of, at the moment, because I know the company, 40,000 of those. Globally, and it's expanding. That's all upstream.
That's a huge shift from what we've had in recent years, the downstream internet browsing.
Yeah, so you go to Web3, and it's read, write, own, right? I own the data. I'm producing the data, and I'm sending it up. And so I still consume the internet down. I still stream video, but the shift is almost to equal.
That symmetry.
Yeah,
I guess that's where the rollout of fiber access, FTTP, things like that across the network are going to support that, right? Main driver for that.
There's no path around fiber, I believe, as many panelists before us said. And on top of that, I think the software-defined portion, right, of how do you integrate a stack from layer 0 to layer, 4, 5, 6 is going to be absolutely critical. Jeannie said the vendors will not like the fact that we go software-defined and maybe some white boxes. Well, if not, again, the hyperscalers will take our lunch. They will eat our lunch. We got to be ready. We got to have fabrics in place, especially in the metros, as inference will move closer to the end users, to go and have a software-driven networking approach, and that based on very secure APIs that at the end of the day you can monetize from.
I think we're also missing a trick when we look at the pure data world, where large providers like Palantir have a monopoly on how they support, for example, the NHS and build a common data platform. If I translate the same to the networking market, why isn't there a single network provider who says, we really approach the NHS market now to help X-rays and medical files and MRIs and God knows what to really flow from the GP or from whatever individual practice to all the NHS hospital trusts? Why can't we just have one? I'm working on so many tenders where individual NHS trusts say, oh, but we want a little piece of the pie, and there. But who is the one who suffers the most? It's the patient, the individual person who says, oh, but my medical file hasn't been sent over. I need to wait for results to be analyzed. Again, there's an aspect where AI could actually help and do the analysis, but just if we stay on the network layer, for this to have a coherent network, you build the architecture. Why can we not just say, here's a blanket contract, make it easy to say to the government, here's a blanket contract, we connect everybody at the same time and give them.
One of the other aspects in the low latency, I guess, for content generating AI is that the need for near real-time, low latency applications and expanding that compute power towards the edge. So that would definitely see kind of from the inquiries we get as a business for more connectivity out to those regional data centers, that kind of decentralization from telehouse traditionally is definitely something we're seeing in the market.
Yeah.
I think nobody has a crystal ball on which use case is going to take our networks by storm, as streaming video did. But depending on what it is, be it a real-time decision-making AI that decides how traffic is going to flow, or that is in industrial automation, or content creating AI. Let's go sit at home and just have the AI generate a movie for us based on the sentiment that it detects. Those are very different use cases. They will live in different parts of the network. And that's why, when we come back, the network got to be ready for that.
Yeah.
And you guys have an amazing roadmap of services and speeds, but we will have some very AI-specific needs in the next 12 to 18 months that are going to hit us, I'm sure.
It's cool. Thank you, guys. That's some interesting and different perspectives on the technology. We've probably got 10 minutes or so for questions, if anybody's got a burning question.
Everybody wants to get on the London Eye, you see.
Everybody is yeah.
Bamboozled. Oh.
One, two. Good. Thanks for that. Jürgen, this one is for you, if you don't mind. You talk about the ISP market and the telco market competing against the hyperscalers. Do you really believe that we have the depth of finance or the scale that's really going to be required for it? I think we kind of lost that battle in the cloud space not too long ago. Lessons learned hard. Do you think there's appetite for telcos to go and do that again?
So I do not see many telcos on this planet being able to stand up against the global scale of any of the hyperscalers, right? The hyperscalers are putting billions and billions of dollars just into data centers right now. It's an arms race between them on who can train an AI model first. But when it comes to the go-to-market, those hyperscalers, they're very open about the fact that they need the service provider. Because we have seen many programs where hyperscalers, try to go all the way to the end user, and that failed. So there is a co-opetition that needs to happen, and the partnership models, they will be dictated on you as a service provider if you don't proactively take them. And I'm just if I look across, the international space that I cover from basically Europe all the way into New Zealand, there are all kind of different, models in place. Some of them are, service provider is just a plumber, and direct internet access or broadband access, that's it, and all the services are monetized over the top. Look at some of yourself, yeah? You are reselling Office 365 as part of your connectivity package to customers. That means the hyperscaler doesn't have to worry about the selling motion, but you keep the customer relationship. And that simple example can be replicated already today with AI. So are you going to stand up a data center against the hyperscaler? I don't think so. Are you going to help them scale it out on the edge? Maybe. Are you going to help them to connect an enterprise and satisfy the requirements for a low latency connection, a redundant connection, and maybe some local customer service? Absolutely. But it's up to you to define what that looks like, because the hyperscalers will not knock on 50 people's door and say, hey, I would like to sell this through you, right?
There are some initiatives such as there's something called Open Gateway where as operators we're looking to work with cloud providers, hyperscalers, to provide deterministic APIs, basically, an API call. So there's the opportunity to go up the value chain, not all the way, of course, but there's definitely a more, as you said, co-opetition type scenario, I think.
Hope that answered your question.
Any further questions? Cool.
Hello, hi. So AI, there are definitely benefits, I think, for a lot of people, particularly when you talk about generation, the creation of content. The challenge is about the governance of that content going public. Who controls the governance around AI? And I think that's probably a fear factor that people have around AI, is who actually controls the content when it leaves the creator.
It's an interesting question, and I think we need to be a little bit more precise when we want to answer this. The main question is the artifact that was created, an image, a piece of, I don't know, a page of Word document. is it actually worth protecting, to say who has the intellectual property right on this? But then we have already lots of other technologies out there like blockchain to prove validity and ownership. I think the bigger issue that we need to address first is to take the fear away of using AI and that corporate data is not leaking out. So as you have a conversation with a ChatGPT bot and you share corporate information to say, oh, here's the, I don't know, the 2024 roadmap, can you help me put that into an article, into a blog? You don't want that information to leak out. So you would do that in an Azure OpenAI instance in your own Azure tenant. So therefore the data wouldn't leak out. To have that kind of knowledge shared first, so that you avoid shadow IT, that people say, oh, yeah, we haven't got an AI ChatGPT instance internally. I just use the one on the web, on the public web. So we need to drive information and make people understand what's the right way to do things, but at the same time encourage you with your internal IT to allow the right technologies and services to be enabled, so that you avoid data leakage and that kind of thing.
Sorry, just to add on to that as well. I don't think we should get rid of the fear of AI. That is very much a healthy fear to have for good reasons. I mean, we're talking here about the benefits of AI, but at the same time, let's be realistic, there's definitely a lot of risks as well, and especially considering who are the current people and the minds behind some of the most popular AI tools like ChatGPT. Like, there is an element where we're looking at, okay, like when you're talking to ChatGPT, and then the lens and the views and the beliefs and the biases that AI particular has says something about their creator. And there is a very important discussion that needs to be made with everyone that is going to be in contact with AI, and for you to think about when it's like, okay, first of all, if we're going to be using AI more and more in our work and in our daily lives, at a certain point, how much of those thoughts and that work belongs to you? And how much of the skills and the thinkings and et cetera are you outsourcing to something that is outside of you? So there is a very fine balance of technology that empowers and technology that disempowers in the long term, because you forget to think for yourself. So I think it's very important that the fear is there. Not saying that I don't think the conversation is at the point where do we embrace it or do we not? That conversation is too late. I think we're at the point where you either embrace it or you're behind. But then the question is, how do you embrace it, and to what extent, and what are the boundaries?
Such a hot potato politically, isn't it, at the moment? And
well, I think our processes and our security systems need to keep pace. There was a $25 million fraud this week, the Hong Kong bank, done by deepfake of the CEO and the CFO, etc. Awesome for the guys who carried it out, right? But you know, not great for the bank. So I think that, you know, as with all security, it's catch up and implement. So.
Yeah. But I think we're not really dealing with the technology more than a policy problem and the rulemaking. I gotta be honest. At Siena, we all were fairly scared when ChatGPT was released, and the first thing there was an email from our general counsel: "Stay away, please don't touch it." A couple of months later, we had a framework developed that clearly outlined what to do, what not to do, and then, you know, it became controllable. And we haven't had any instances. We are now trying code development in certain pockets in a very controlled fashion to figure out, you know, how good is the quality, how can you control it, and you know, this whole ownership thing is also a big one. But start with thinking about how you want to use it and how to police it. And there are some really good frameworks out there that can be applied to any organization.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. I think we need to wrap it up there. If you guys haven't done so already, please do take a look at the report. It's full of really thought-provoking insights and stats, not just about AI, but around the other technologies we've talked about. And please do come and talk to us. And we can do what we can to help you get ready to embrace those technologies. Thank you for listening, and a special thanks to our guest panelists. Please give them a big round of applause. It's been great. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Matt. Well done.